How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
Listen up. I won't sugarcoat it. This is the longest cold, flu, and allergy season we've ever seen, but we're not alone. We've got Instacart. Sure, you may be a coughing snot faucet who just wants mommy, but you're not giving up! Not when cold medicine, fragrant herbal teas, and honey shaped like bears can be delivered through Instacart in as fast as 30 minutes! Now let's go win the sick playoffs!
Daddy, I just want my soup.
Oh, sorry, Sport. App says it'll be here in a few minutes. Instacart for the win.
Jeff Gueldner joins us from the KU Television Network. Jeff, hello, welcome.
How are you all doing?
We're doing well. So as I'm watching the selections last night, and I saw the final selections that they put out on ESPN.com yesterday, and I said to myself, if this is the way it goes, KU is pretty fortunate. They get a pretty good draw here. They're a 4 seed, which is, of course, unusual for Kansas. But I like their draw. Do you agree? I think there is a path if they are healthy and playing on most of their cylinders.
Well, you mentioned two very relative terms, being healthy and then playing on most of their cylinders. I think, this is a team that is, and I've said it a million times on air, they're consistently inconsistent, and they're not good enough at anything to overcome being bad at anything. And that's unfortunately what's plagued them. But more than anything, as you mentioned, it was their health. If you were to ask Coach, what Bill Self said yesterday, Stanford's a rough matchup. Well, because they shoot a lot of threes. Well, you could also say that a great rebounding team or a team that turns you over, whatever it is, has proven difficult for our team at times. However, we've also shown the ability to excel at everything at any given time. So it's really a crapshoot.
Is Bill Self the type, because, external expectations haven't been this relatively low for KU in a while. Is he the type that will use that as a motivational factor? Hey, not a lot of people are believing in us. They've seen what we've done in later in the season, and they're not picking us. Is that something that he can use, and do you think he will?
I think he'll use any means necessary. He did a press conference a few weeks ago where someone asked him a question like that, and his response was, as a coach, you can only give those rah-rah Newt Rodney speeches a couple of times a year or it starts to fall on deaf ears. And I think this is one of those times where, obviously we're questioned because of some of the losses that we had, but really once McCullough got injured, he has not been good. And then when you combine that with Hunter going down, we really had no shot. So those losses are almost foreseeable, if not understandable. And so you look at this team, and I'll put it healthy. Again, we got to talk like we're healthy. Put our starting five against anybody. But we have to play a certain way, and we have to do certain things well, and it would certainly be nice if somebody could make an outside shot.
Talking with Jeff Gueldner, former Jayhawk, part of the 1988 championship team, and now with talking with us about KU's chances here in the tournament. They go in with 4 losses in their last 5 games. How soon will we be able to tell whether they're healthy, whether McCullough and Dickinson are healthy, how they're feeling? Will that happen pretty early on in this game against Sanford, do you think?
I think it will with Hunter. The way that things have gone with Kevin McCullough, it literally seems like it's day to day. I know there's a lot of frustration around it because it is not the consensus is there is not risk of further injury. It's more of a pain tolerance and a doubting kind of a thing, which again, none of us are inside Kevin McCullough's body, and he's hoping to play basketball for a long time. But that's more of a day-to-day thing because, any type of movement seems to bother it, but yet he's done well at times as well. This will be his first day practicing with contact, and I think depending on, I don't know how much contact they're actually going to have, leading up to the NCAA tournament, but at least he's going to feel some pressure on that arm and see how it responds. And tomorrow will be a big day to see how he feels coming out of that. But, it's more of a, okay, we can't let him damage his shoulder perspective, but Bill seems to be very, encouraged so far, but he hasn't had any contact on it just yet. And as we know, people can say what they want. Basketball is a contact sport, especially in the paint.
Do you think it was damaging at all that KU only got one game in the Big 12 tournament? There's not much depth there, regardless of whether McCullough and Dickinson are playing at all. But Jamar McDowell played pretty well in that game. Do you think they wanted a longer look at him or maybe somebody else to see if they'd be able to contribute in these games?
No, well, anything, again, my opinion is that Bill was very content to go home. Let's go home and rest. Let's go home and try to get healthy because, the only thing that's going to salvage, and I hate it's a relative term again because of the success that he's had, but the only thing that's going to salvage this season in terms of meeting their expectations that were set when they were preseason number one is to go on a deep NCAA run, get to a Final Four. The only way that's going to happen is to be healthy and to be able to ride those starters for 35-plus minutes and win a series of one-game tournaments. And if we get something out of Nick Timberlake, that's awesome. If we get something out of Marco, that's great. Jamari has shown flashes of what his potential can be, but Bill wants to ride and feels like he needs to ride this starting five, and understandably so. And the best way to do that is to let them sit for a while, and then not have any excuses from a health or fatigue standpoint.
Jeff Gueldner with us from KU Television. I think you probably just answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I went into the Houston game on the road with some anticipation, even though we knew KU was dinged up in a big way, and they weren't really competitive in that game. The game against Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament, I kind of felt the same way. Is KU going to show us something here? And they really didn't. They lost by 30 to Houston and 20 to Cincinnati. How disappointing do you think Coach Self is in the fact that his guys, even the thin roster that was left, that they didn't perform better, that they didn't perhaps show more fight? Do you think that hangs with him, or does he just wash his hands of all of that, move on now to Sanford and call that a day?
A little bit of both. I mean, it's at the time most certainly frustration. Not just in again, he mentioned that he felt the effort was good, but not so much the competitive fire. Not they were beaten, and specifically talking about the Houston game. Every loose ball, every 50-50 ball. Really, they were the aggressor and we weren't, and that drives him nuts. I don't think there's no shame in losing at Houston. I mean, there's no shame in losing at Baylor. This team's, the shame of this team was that UCF, West Virginia, at K-State loss. Those are the ones that were really killers. And then the Cincinnati game, you look at this team and everything, in my opinion, everything that they do, especially offensively, runs through or needs to run through Kevin McCullough. Hunter Dickinson. And so not having him out there makes you essentially a dribble drive or a three-point shooting team, and those are two things that we really don't have. We don't have, like some people refer to them as guys or dudes, guys you can just say, here you go, here's the ball, go make something happen. Make a shot, create for yourself, whatever. We don't have that. We're a team that has to play together, that has to move the basketball, play through Hunter, and when we do that and do it well, we're fun to watch. I mean, beautiful basketball at times. But without that, you saw how bad it can get, especially with nobody making shots. And unfortunately now, at least recently, Johnny Furphy has kind of fallen into that mold of can't make a shot and really isn't producing. And that just was just too much to overcome. And I think they just got to the point to where Bill just said, the hell with it.
How much does the question of health limit Kansas's range of outcomes in this tournament. You would assume, that if they play as poorly as they have without those guys, and if they're not fully healthy, then you probably can lose in the first round. But if they are healthy and playing well, I guess going all the way isn't completely out of the equation. They were number one in the country preseason. So is that still the range of outcomes, or is it smaller now?
I think it still is a range, and I made the comment, it's probably been a month or so ago on our show that, and we're all guilty of revisionist history, but I made the statement that in my memory, which again is questionable, I can remember what I had for breakfast, but the spread between our ceiling and our floor is as big, if not bigger, than any KU team that I can remember in terms of how bad we can play at times, literally possession by possession, just how awful we can look, but yet how good we can look when we're kind of dialed in defensively like we were against K-State in senior night, or offensively like we were against Houston at home. Now, you don't necessarily expect to play awesome all the time, and Bill always talks about needing to win ugly at times, but this team has not really shown the ability to win those ugly games necessarily, so they need to play at a little bit higher level, specifically on the offensive end. And they can most definitely, if healthy, lose to Samford. They can most definitely, if healthy, cut down nets. Now, is that likely based on what we've seen? Will they need some help from the bench? Sure, of course they will. But there's a lot of teams that go on runs in the NCAA tournament that don't have any of the talent, and they certainly don't have the best coach of college basketball like we do.
Good stuff. Before we leave you, Jeff, I wanted to ask you, the transfer portal opened up today, and it was a mad rush. What do you think of that?
I think it's awful. Just like the NIL, I think it was done with no. And there's other things in our life that we can make this comment about that I won't get into, but it was done with really not enough thought and not enough guardrails or parameters around it. I understand in theory what it could be, but Jay Wright made a great I saw a great quote from him in that the days of the blue bloods are kind of over in his opinion, because KU can get a guy, and he was referring to KU specifically. You can get a guy that won't play his freshman year, and in the past, he would stick around for his sophomore year rather than transferring and having to sit out, and would be a great junior. Well, now that same kid leaves after his freshman year, goes to a TCU or an interstate rival, gets better, and is a stud for them his junior year, and we've got equal talent. And there's something to be said about players being able to have some freedom, but I think the guardrails are off, and to be able to transfer whenever you want and within conference, and literally having to re-recruit your own players every year between that and NIL is just a disaster, and I'm not sure what the first step is to dial it back.
I'm with you. Thank you, Jeff. We always appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care, guys. Have a good show.
Thanks.
You bet. Jeff Gueldner from the KU Television Network, former Jayhawk.
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.
Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale. With Hot Buys, your choice of colors starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $2.50. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beautyrest Black with 60-month special financing. Only at Ashley. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them, with more coming in. But we also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of cost, range, or concern about finding a charging station when you need it. Plus, the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future. in vehicles and in manufacturing plants too in the years ahead. The materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with the vehicle that's right for you, a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/beyond zero. Toyota, let's go places.